Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real, something true, something every grown man in this room has felt but rarely admits. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, when her heart keeps circling back to him, no matter what she's doing, there are 4 things that start happening to that man, even if he doesn't know why. Because whether you believe it or not, a woman's energy, her attention, and her emotions are powerful. They don't just sit quietly, they move things. They change things, and they most definitely affect a man. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, the first thing that happens is an emotional pull that starts forming between them, something invisible yet powerful, something that connects her heart to his spirit long before either of them fully understands it. This emotional pull isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it isn't something she announces or even tries to create. It just happens naturally because that's how women love. When a woman cares, she thinks deeply. When she admires, she feels fully. When she is drawn to a man, her thoughts follow him everywhere, and that steady stream of emotion creates a kind of magnetic energy that he subconsciously begins to feel. A man might be sitting at home, scrolling through his phone, or driving to work, or having lunch with his friends, and out of nowhere his mind jumps to her. He doesn't know what triggered it. He doesn't know why she suddenly crossed his mind, but something inside him senses her presence, almost like her thoughts send out a signal that lands quietly on his chest. Women are emotional thinkers, and men are energetic receivers. That's why her thoughts, even in silence, have power. See, men don't always have the emotional vocabulary to explain what's happening inside them, but they feel more than they admit. A woman who thinks about a man constantly creates a softness in the air around him, a warmth he can't put into words. He feels a shift when she's near, even if she hasn't spoken. He feels a comfort when she walks into the room. Even if she hasn't touched him, he feels something pulling him closer, even if he hasn't analyzed why. That's the emotional pull forming, that unspoken bond that starts before a single confession is made. And the deeper she thinks about him, the stronger that bond becomes. Her energy becomes familiar to him. Her presence becomes something he quietly anticipates. Her attention becomes something he subconsciously leans into. A woman thinking about a man isn't just a mental process, it's an emotional force. Every thought she has about him carries a piece of her heart, and the more she thinks, the more her feelings evolve into an emotional frequency that he picks up on. Even if he's distracted, even if he's busy, even if he's not ready to admit he feels anything, her emotional pull taps him on the shoulder and whispers, "Pay attention." And slowly, without even realizing it, he starts responding. He becomes more aware of her. He starts looking at her differently. He starts wondering about her. He notices the small things, her tone, her smile, the way she carries herself, because something in him is being drawn by her consistent emotional presence. This is the kind of pull that doesn't need words, doesn't need explanation, and doesn't need effort. It's natural. It's silent and it's powerful. A woman's thoughts create a connection that a man feels in ways he can't explain but can never ignore. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, the second thing that happens is his behavior starts to shift, and it happens in ways he doesn't even recognize at first. A man's behavior is one of the most honest reflections of how he feels, even when he tries to act tough, calm, or indifferent. And when a woman constantly thinks about him, her energy, her attention, and her subtle changes begin influencing how he shows up. Men are far more aware than they pretend to be. They notice the softness in her voice, the way she listens, the extra bit of care she gives without saying a word. They notice the consistency, the warmth, the way she becomes a safe space without even trying. And as she thinks about him more, she naturally treats him differently, and he responds to that shift without understanding why. Suddenly, he's more attentive. Suddenly, he wants to be around her more. Suddenly, he finds himself drawn to her presence in a way he didn't expect. A man's ego might try to keep him looking cool on the outside, but his heart doesn't lie. When a woman's thoughts wrap around him like a quiet hug, when she remembers his interests, notices his moods, or pays attention to the tiny details that everyone else misses, he feels it. He might not say anything, but he registers everything, and that changes his behavior. Maybe he starts texting her first a little more. Maybe he responds quicker. Maybe his voice softens when he talks to her. Maybe he stands a little closer, smiles a little bigger, or listens a little deeper. These are not accidents, they're reactions. Because when a woman's mind is consistently on a man, her actions become more intentional, more thoughtful, more meaningful, and those actions make him adjust his own. A woman thinking about a man brings a certain energy that men crave, even if they don't know how to articulate it. It's not about chasing him or overwhelming him. It's the difference in how she looks at him, the attention she gives, the comfort she offers. Men feel safe around women who think about them sincerely. They open up differently around them. They breathe differently around them. And that comfort makes them change their behavior without even realizing the shift. He might start confiding in her more, telling her things he doesn't share with anyone else. He might start protecting her in small ways, stepping in, checking on her, making sure she's good. Men don't do that unless they feel something, and that feeling often begins because her thoughts and energy make him recognize her value. The truth is, when a woman thinks deeply about a man, she gives him of a version of herself that is gentle but powerful, quiet but influential. And that version of her brings out a version of him that even he didn't know he had. That's why his behavior changes, not because she forces anything, but because her presence naturally awakens something inside him. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, the third thing that happens is his confidence begins to rise, and it rises in a way he can't hide, control, or downplay. A man can walk through the world acting strong, acting tough, acting like he doesn't need anything from anyone, but deep down, every man wants to feel valued. Every man wants to feel chosen. Every man wants to feel like he matters to somebody. And when a woman's thoughts keep circling back to him, when she cares about how he's doing, when she thinks about his success, his struggles, his dreams, his well-being. It sends a signal to him that he is important. A woman's attention is never small. It feeds a man. It fuels him. It lifts him in a way nothing else can. A man may never say it out loud, but he feels it when a woman sees him for who he is, not just the strong parts, but the vulnerable ones. When she notices the effort he puts into his life, when she compliments him on something he didn't even know she paid attention to, when she remembers things he mentioned in passing, it boosts him in ways he didn't expect. Suddenly he stands a little taller. Suddenly he talks with more purpose. Suddenly he feels more grounded, more certain, more capable. A woman thinking about him makes him feel like he's worth thinking about, and that alone can change the way he carries himself. Men are often raised to believe they need to be stoic, silent, emotionally guarded. They're taught not to show weakness, not to ask for reassurance, not to express their insecurities. But the truth is, even the strongest man has moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments where he questions himself. And this is where a woman's emotional focus becomes powerful. When a woman thinks deeply about a man, her energy reflects that care back onto him. She might speak to him with a softer tone. She might encourage him without realizing it. She might cheer for him in quiet ways that he never hears from anyone else. And that subtle support strengthens him from the inside out. When a man feels a woman genuinely thinks about him, not for what he can provide, but for who he is, he begins to feel seen in a way that the world rarely offers. That moment of being seen is what builds his confidence. He feels respected. He feels appreciated. He feels like he matters beyond the surface level. And once a man feels that, it changes him. He becomes more open with his ambitions. He becomes more expressive with his emotions. He becomes more certain in his decisions. A woman's consistent thoughts about him become a silent reassurance that he is worthy, capable, and valued. And the most beautiful part, the woman doesn't even have to do anything dramatic. Her simple, quiet, sincere thoughts create a glow around him that he carries into every part of his life. A woman's belief in a man is one of the strongest confidence builders he will ever experience. And when she can't stop thinking about him, that belief becomes a steady force shaping him for the better. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, the fourth thing that happens is his intuition starts waking up and he begins sensing things he can't logically explain. Men may not always be emotionally expressive, but they are far more intuitive than people give them credit for. A man can feel a woman's energy long before she ever says a word. He picks up on the way she looks at him, the way she hesitates before speaking, the way her tone softens when she's around him. And when she thinks about him constantly, her thoughts start showing up in her actions, her presence, and even her silence. A man might not know exactly what's going on, but he starts feeling something different, something meaningful, something that makes him pay closer attention to her. A woman's emotional focus creates subtle shifts. She listens a little more carefully. She responds a little more warmly. She remembers details he didn't expect her to remember. She supports him in moments where he didn't even realize he needed support. None of this is loud or exaggerated. It's quiet, soft, and deeply sincere. And men feel sincerity like a vibration in the air. They sense when someone is thinking about them, caring about them, rooting for them. They sense the energy of affection even when it's unspoken. So his intuition begins picking up signals, the way she checks on him, the way she worries about him, the way she celebrates him, the way she's just there. He might start wondering why she's on his mind more often. He might notice that her presence brings him comfort. He might find himself drawn to her voice, her laughter, her energy. And without even realizing it, his intuition tells him that there's something special happening, something growing, something forming between them. A man's intuition isn't always verbal. It shows up in the way he behaves. He starts paying closer attention. He starts observing her more carefully. He starts wanting to understand her thoughts, her moods, her habits, not because she asked him to, but because he feels something shifting internally. A woman's thoughts also bring out a protective instinct in a man. When he senses her genuine emotional presence, something in him awakens, making him want to be someone she can rely on. He starts checking on her more. He worries about her well-being. He listens more deeply when she talks. His intuition guides him toward wanting to be closer, wanting to be available, wanting to show up in her life in ways he didn't feel compelled to before. Every man knows this feeling. It's that quiet tug in the chest that says, there's something about her. Even when he tries to ignore it, a woman's emotional energy is powerful because it reaches a part of a man that logic can't touch. It moves through his intuition, stirring feelings he wasn't expecting. And the more she thinks about him, the stronger the signal becomes. He can't always describe it, but he feels it, the warmth, the connection, the pull, the possibility, and that intuitive shift is often the very beginning of something real, something deep, something he never saw coming, but suddenly can't ignore. When a woman can't stop thinking about a man, the fifth thing that happens is his sense of attachment begins to awaken, often without him understanding why. Men don't attach quickly, not in the way women do. Men take time. Men need consistency, safety, and emotional peace before they open that part of themselves. But when a woman thinks about a man constantly, her thoughts naturally shape her behavior, and that behavior creates an emotional environment that makes a man feel connected in ways he didn't expect. He starts to notice the way she shows up for him, the way she listens, the way she encourages him, the way she gives without demanding anything in return. And whether he admits it or not, those small moments start building something in him, a quiet bond, a growing warmth, an emotional familiarity he can't walk away from even if he tried. A woman who thinks deeply about a man interacts with him differently. Her tone becomes gentle. Her eyes soften when she talks to him. She remembers what matters to him, even the things he mentioned only once. She notices his moods, his struggles, his efforts. She becomes a safe space, not because she's trying to win him over, but because her thoughts naturally create a level of care that he can feel. And men attach to care. Men attach to consistency. Men attached to a woman.